What is going on, everyone? This is Nick from Comic Culture. We are doing Nick at Night. We are going to review the books we picked up on July 28th because there's a stack of them to go through. Non-spoiler review. I'm going to do my best to not give away any major plot points, any major reveals or anything like that. So it's basically my just feeling about how the book was, how the art is, how the story is, and did it do it for me? So stay tuned. All right, guys, we're back. So we're going to start with the pick of the week for me. This is Superman, Son of Kal-El. This is Tom Taylor touching on the character. I really enjoy Tom Taylor's work right now. And we also have John Timms on the art. So this character is probably not new. This problem this character has, that Jonathan Kent has, is probably not a new problem, right? I can't imagine that this character has a crisis of, legacy. Like, what am I going to be doing? What kind of a person am I going to be? We do touch on how he kind of acts right now with the kind of compassion that he has. He doesn't just jump to conclusions. He has a really interesting run-in during a forest fire with a particular person. What causes forest fire? And he finds out what the cause is, and he has a way of handling that situation with a lot more compassion than the local government or authorities do here. So we already learned what kind of a character he is now, or what kind of character he has right now. But he still has this crisis, right? Like, what am I going to do? What kind of a person am I going to be? What kind of impact am I going to make? And so he relies on some of his friends to kind of help have that conversation. So again, it can't be a conversation or a thought or a dilemma that this character that Jonathan's had. It can't be the first time he's had this kind of a thought, right? But it's new to me. And I really enjoy what I read here in the book. I'll definitely be picking it up going forward. And not to mention, the covers have been absolutely fire for this. I love that. I was thinking he's going to be this age, because this is the age we kind of see the Super Sons, right? But in reality, we get a guy more this age, more like in his 20s almost. So that was kind of weird to see, because I was expecting him to be like 10 years old, but he looks like he's 20. 22 pages. Really wanted more, but absolutely loved what we got. The art was great, the story was great little introduction to the character. So I'm interested to see what happens next. So let me know if you guys are veterans to Superman and know a lot about Jonathan Kent. Let me know what you guys thought about this issue, because as a newbie, it was great. Absolutely loved it. A little bit of a tie-in. Robin number 4, probably the weakest issue of Robin in my opinion. I'm not going to give away who he was with during this issue, but we have someone we haven't seen. Well, we saw him in the last issue. I'm not going to spoil who it was, but this character is playing kind of a mentor role, and Damian hates this character, but he's still trying to be a mentor to Damian. He's trying to teach him another way. He's trying to teach him some other form of focus, other form of combat, some other perspective, trying to give him another perspective that his mom and dad, Talia and Bruce, that they never really instilled in Damian. So can he absorb this lesson? Can he use it in the battles that come ahead? Who knows? It was kind of interesting. One thing that left a bad taste in my mouth was the very last page. There is more character reveals at the very end. And one of them has probably the worst face I've ever seen in comic books. The faces in this book are not great. That particular face. I think some of the other faces in the book were interesting, but man, I was like, okay, I'm digging it. It's probably not the best issue of Robin so far. There's some points here and there that are interesting. And in the very last page, you're just like, oh, that's not great. So let me know. It should be pretty obvious when you see it. Speaking of not great faces, back in Superman, there's a couple scenes in there where the faces seem very odd. Like the forehead, nose, brow, chins. They just don't seem to work well. It works well on some pages, but anyway, overall it was good. Robin number 4, probably the weakest Robin book in my opinion. Going on the Infinite Frontier, this is issue 3 of 6 rather. We have just more characters. I think on my last review here, we basically said it's full of characters I don't know, doing things for reasons that I don't know, and there's just relationships I'm not really up to speed on. So this book is just a learning curve for me. I'm not really invested in the characters. I have no idea why their relationships matter. I have no idea what the purpose is, but I'm just kind of hanging on for dear life right now and seeing and hoping that after I read all 6 issues that it will make sense and it will at least give me a little bit of basis for some characters that I don't know anything about. So hopefully that accomplishes that. Let me guys know if Infinite Frontier is a book that's just blowing you away because you just know all the characters and you understand why things matter and why certain reveals are so cool. Let me know. Who is the new Black Lantern? I don't know. I'm not sure if I care yet. Infinite Frontier, 3 of 6. Can't really say much about it. Marvel, continuing on with the big 2. This is Daredevil number 32, the absolute worst page quality and not great cover from Peach Momoko. She has an issue with like perspective when it comes to like slightly tilted characters and like chest anatomy. I don't know. That's off, man. That's definitely off. I didn't notice it when I was in the shop when I picked it up because I just saw the face. But like, I like these runs of books, but I think, what was there, a Gwen Stacy one was clearly the best one. The Wolverine one was okay, but Daredevil's probably the worst one. But I picked it up anyways, and I shouldn't because this is the worst. This is the worst printed book I've ever seen, I think. The staples are on the back. It's wavy. It's got like fingerprints. It looks dirty, and Marvel books are getting worse and worse each week, it feels like. Anyways, on to the story. So we're still facing the same issues we've had for the past 3-4 issues now. Daredevil's still locked up. He's trying to learn as much information as he can about the warden and about these prisoners that are dying. Elektra's still running the streets trying to figure out, when the time comes, can she be noble like Matt and do the right thing, or is she kind of regress and go on the murderous rampage that she knows she's capable of? And so we have Bullseye running around doing seemingly impossible killings right now. His kill count's getting into the hundreds. And so everyone's just trying to figure out, like, Matt's trying to figure out this problem in the prison. Elektra's trying to figure out, she's having like a crisis of faith almost. And then Bullseye is doing the impossible. So we're all just trying to kind of get out from where we are right here. And we got some shocking things at the end on the Elektra Bullseye battle. So we're going to figure out what that means and what the hell she's going to do about it, because she seems like she's outnumbered. We do get a little appearance from Spider-Man in here. I'm wondering if he's going to come back. He might be essential for Elektra to kind of get out of the situation that she found herself in at the end of the book. Daredevil, great book. First 25 issues were really great. Ever since the art changed, I would say, it's been kind of like, eh. And then not to mention the page quality is absolutely miserable in Marvel books right now. Daredevil especially. Amazing Fantasy, this is number 1. Another highly anticipated book. This is a bunch of short stories that are all connected. Maybe short stories is not the best way to describe it, but we have Captain America, we have Black Widow, and we have Spider-Man, all doing their own thing. This apparently takes place early on. I think I'm trying to think, does it reveal the year? 1943, World War II. Cap's doing whatever Cap did back then before he was on ice. So we get some cool things there. We have Soviet Union when Black Widow was still in the Red Room. And then we get Peter Parker. I'm just trying to see if they reveal years to us here, just so I can be descriptive. I'm not entirely sure. This is still early on. This is still when he's like, oh, my uncle died, I gotta do the right thing, and all this stuff. So it's still kind of early on in his career too. At least that's the impression that I got. He's fighting Green Goblin, all this stuff. And so essentially all 3 of these stories start off with the characters doing what the characters always do. And then they all seemingly get into a position where they're in another alternate universe. They're in another world. They're in a dream state. They don't quite know what the heck's going on. They're surrounded by just complete chaos. As you can tell on the cover, there's like manticores and all sorts of stuff. Or griffins. Why did I say? So in Magic, there was a card called that, I think. It's called Manticore, I think, but it's actually a griffin. So it's just complete chaos right now. They don't know if they're in a dream state or not, but they have all three of their stories lead them to this place. They're trying to figure it out. Is it real or not? We didn't get the answers to it. It was okay. I thought it was vaguely interesting. I'll keep writing it out, seeing where it goes. At least the page quality was okay. If they can do that with Amazing Fantasy, why can't they do it with other books? We have Beta Ray Bill number 5. This is Daniel Warren Johnson. This is the conclusion of the story here. Anything Daniel Warren Johnson does is just like magic to me. Murder Falcon and Wonder Woman. Extremity, I think, is another one that I was recommended to read. I got to go pick those up right now. Mike Spicer on the art. Again, this is the conclusion. He's trying to find a replacement weapon because Mjolnir's lost to him. Stormbreaker was destroyed in the Thor run, if I'm not mistaken, during the beginnings of King in Black. And so he's basically ascended down into hell with his ship and some allies. And so he's found the weapon, but he's got to kind of prove his worthiness, right? I think it's, what is his name? Surtur? I can never say that guy's name right, but essentially he's a giant demon that has to essentially battle to get ownership of this weapon. And so he's essentially a god. He's like a giant demon, right? So what are you going to do? Well, Beta Ray Bill kind of talks him down to his level, lets him kind of morph down, and they have this just epic, insane battle. Obviously the upper hand switches back and forth depending on what's going on. It seems like it's impossible odds. And then Scuttlebug, she's in her new like human form. She kind of reprograms the whole ship to kind of help give the team the upper hand. And what an epic moment. It's Daniel Warren Johnson doing what he does best. Just insane. I think it was Robbie the other night who said he doesn't like when he has to turn the page, but like this particular moment, it was actually worth it to turn the page. Really, really, really cool ending. We get some like identity crisis stuff towards the end, because Beta Ray Bill's just trying to cope with the way that he is, right? He's got like this more humanish form, but he's also got like that horse face form, you know what I mean? And that horse face form has gotten him a lot of rejection over the years. So he's just trying to reconcile having both of those forms. And he's got this new weapon now. He's got these new relationships with Scuttlebug, and he's just trying to reconcile all that right now. And the future is kind of still a little bit uncertain for him as far as that goes. Really, really, really good book. 5 issues. Daniel Warren Johnson on the art and the writing. Really recommend it. If you're not on Beta Ray Bill or haven't been on it, it's 5 issues. You can probably find them. I would say it's definitely worth it. All right, so that's it for the big 2. Moving on to indies, starting with Image. This is Department of Truth, issue number 11. This is the conclusion, hopefully, of the Sasquatch 2-issue arc. I'm going to warn you right now, if you didn't like the handwritten notes in the last issue, I should say, they're back, baby. And they're back with a vengeance. We start with 2 of those pages right off the bat. More discussion, more conversation between the father, who's been absolutely obsessed with the theory of Bigfoot, to his son. So we have a lot more of that. But we also get Cole and Hawk and the woman that we met in the previous issue. I cannot remember her name. Getting more ideas about, or getting more background on where things like Bigfoot come from. Basically, the Cliff Note version is that during, Western society was brought up kind of sheltered, right? So when people started like bringing circuses from Africa, they started introducing them to animals that they haven't seen before, like lions and giraffes and things like that. And people are excited for adventure and what they might find. There might be some monsters. There might be some other crazy stuff out there. They mentioned Yeti. They mentioned the Loch Ness Monster. So people started thinking about all these things that are in faraway land. But like, hey, what if there was things in our own backyard, right? And so that was essentially one of the driving forces for Bigfoot. And so, our character kind of, our character that's writing these letters to the son, essentially just goes on and on about, how him and his wife, or the guy's mom, were actually, kind of into it at first, but then it kind of got more of an obsession over time. And, things just spun out of control in the family, and that's why their family broke up and everything. The other side of the story is Hawk and Cole and our woman here are walking through the woods, trying to hunt down Bigfoot. and they actually run into the guy and they have an altercation here. And so I won't spoil what actually happens in here, but it's pretty shocking. And the result of that is we see a side of Hawk, who's just a cold-hearted bastard because he has to be. We see a side of Hawk that we haven't really seen before. And it was kind of relieving because Hawk's been like a do everything you possibly can do to get the job done kind of guy. Not taking crap from anybody. And we see some compassion. So it was really interesting. But then we get a little bit of, a little heartbreak at the end with another. Not only do we get another letter that breaks your heart, but the actual contents of the letter kind of breaks your heart as well. So it was interesting. I'm really hoping that I'm kind of glad we got this little side story because it shines a light on the smaller in your own backyard kinds of myths. It's not like world shattering myths. It's more like, what happens when, enough kids believe in ghosts or enough kids believe in monsters under your bed. It's like they become real in this universe. So what do you do about it? What do you do when a lot of people believe in Bigfoot and Bigfoot manifests itself and it ends up becoming a problem? There's got to be some people out there to take care of it. And so we learn about that. So yeah, interesting book. It was hard to get through, but it was still interesting. So as you all know, my tradition is I read Department of Truth and then I flip over and read Spawn, Todd McFarlane. I keep forgetting the name of this main character, but cool homage cover to ASM 316, I believe, Venom first cover appearance. So props to them for kind of pulling that back. So we essentially, Sigour is just giant bait right now. We have a lot of people out there trying to take the thrones of people who have fallen off of them, right? So Spawn's kind of taking care of some business. He's got some demons to deal with. He's got angels to deal with. He's got, he's trying to protect the people around him so they can be used later in battle because he's not the same Spawn as he's always been. He's not as strong. He's got too many things happening, too many forces up against him right now. And the humans are getting into the game and they're kind of modifying themselves and trying to, kind of get the upper hand and use his friends as bait. So Sigour is essentially bait for our main character here to get right to Spawn. And it works perfectly. The battle is pretty quick. It has its moments of, the upper hand shifting left and right. The guy's power set isn't exactly, his name is Soul Crusher. That's right, Soul Crusher. His powers aren't really explained, but he was an interesting character. I thought the art was really, really cool. There was some moments in here where Spawn just kind of goes absolutely crazy, and I really, really enjoyed it. So Spawn is a book that I'm glad I'm picking up, and I'm going to continue to read going forward. Now, I know there's like King Spawn and Gunslinger Spawn and Spawn Universe, and there's like 5 or 6 Spawn books coming out, it feels like. I don't think I'm going to get all those. I have Universe and the main run so far, and I think I have King, and I think I'm debating or whether or not I want to get Gunslinger. It seems like it's just going to be oversaturation and I don't want to get burned out. So I'm trying to figure out like what's essential. You know what I mean? I feel like the main run's going to be essential and I'm not sure what Universe has in store for us if they're just going to have a main run and they're going to do a bunch of one-offs with these other characters. Like where does Universe fit into all this? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Sweet Paprika #1. I don't even want to review this book because I can't. But my shop even questioned me why I got this. I thought I knew it was going to be risque, I should say, but I didn't know it was going to be that risque. So I don't know if you're into over animated, like Scott Pilgrim-y kind of like blow up moments, like in the middle of conversations and stuff like that, and you like that, and you like your books to be a little bit risky. This is the book for you. It wasn't the book for me. And I'm probably not going to pick it up going forward, but cool art trim cover. That's really all I'm going to say about it because I don't really want to get into it. All right, Skybound X. This is #4. I think that this book overall is starting to kind of go down a little bit for me. It's interesting. Even the Walking Dead part is a little bit just, it's fun, but it's absurd to the point where it's like, okay, right? So I don't know. We'll keep reading it because it's just fun to see these characters interact again. You're not really getting any like relationships or any kind of like character moments in this. It's just pure chaos and like modified people and modified weapons doing the impossible and people just getting ripped in half and stuff like that. It's fun to read. It's fun to see these characters in that kind of way. But yeah, I think it's losing its allure a little bit. And then the other stories, I read about half of each of them. I just didn't care about them. The other ones were, because I didn't read them originally, right? So it was Excellence, Sea Serpent's Heir, and Redneck. I didn't read any three of those, so I had no context for them. I did like the ones that I know more about, like Stillwater and Murder Falcon. And there was a couple others that I didn't read, but I still enjoyed the short stories. But some of these, I'm just like, no, didn't like them. But let me know below if you read all the other stories and they were good for you, because that'd be cool. I'm happy for you. All right, bunch of books left. So we have Vinyl. This is issue number 2, and it's got that cool connected front back cover. These guys are really interesting. They're redheaded twins that are serial killers, and they are recruited by, I think our main guy is Walter, right? And so Walter, essentially in the first issue, Walter's meeting with this agent. He's kind of undercover. He's wired. He's mic'd up. And he's trying to get information from Walter about where he was. There was a murder a little while ago. Maybe it fits the MO of Walter, because Walter's a serial killer. And he's kind of like, we don't quite understand how his brain works just yet. We know he could be really silly and like off topic, but then we know something snaps. And he's like super ultra focused and deadly, man. He's been doing this for a long time. Apparently been on the run. No one's been able to catch him, but everyone's wise to him. So anyways, so this guy that was undercover with him, presumably a friend, he gets put into a position where his daughter is essentially brought into a cult and like brainwashed. And if he doesn't come with them, the cult leader is going to let her marry her son, who is really sadistic. And that's probably the last thing that he wants. So he unwillingly goes with them, and Walter's pissed. So he kind of goes there to scope the place out, realizes there's a lot of people around here. He kind of gets brushed off. And so then Walter calls reinforcements up. He calls his serial killer friends. And so this is kind of their planning the event, a little bit about who the twins are, a little bit about what they're able to do when they actually infiltrate this cult. But then we also learn a little bit about the cult themselves, about how prepared they are. And it's kind of shocking how prepared they are. And there might be a lot of hidden weird things going on in this situation too. So it's going to be kind of fun to see what happens in this book. The upper hand shifts from side to side. And yeah, I can't wait to kind of see what happens. It's like, what happens when you call all your serial killer friends to infiltrate a cult who has their own secrets and stuff. So yeah, it'll be fun to see where Vinyl goes. All right, moving on. We have Vault next. We have Barbaric number 2. I got the black bag, but I also got this cool variant cover here as well. This book was interesting. Not as good as the first book, I would say. This is Michael Morisi and Nathan Golden on the art. The art is still pretty interesting. Some of the facial expressions are a little bit weird, especially with our witch character here. I can never remember her name, but she's interesting. And we have a big fan of Barbaric number 2 jumping up over here too. She likes to go sit. This is Maya. She likes to go sit right there on our Space Invaders. So Barbaric. So it's kind of picking up with our main character Owen and the axe. We got introduced to the witch character in the previous issue. We learned a little bit about her backstory, about how her powers were kind of like a curse back in the day. And she kind of met with this church that she thought was trying to help her, but they ended up using kind of her power or manipulating her a little bit, or trying to, do their own thing, right? They turned out to be something that they weren't, right? And so she's kind of going back to kind of set things straight, and she needs Owen's help to do it. So they infiltrate this place, and they kind of bite off more than they can chew. It's very cult-like. There's a lot of like demons and spirits and things like that. But fortunately, we have Owen and the axe to kind of help take care of the situation. But they kind of lose the upper hand here a little bit. Now they got to deal with a lot of different things at once. And so, man, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from there. Again, I think the greatest strengths of this book is like the art and the dialogue between Owen and the axe. The axe is hilarious. The axe actually talks back and is like thirsty for blood and will get drunk off the blood. And so that's just a really, really cool concept. So the art, the underlying theme of the character between the axe, the character Owen, and the axe itself, is really the strength of this book so far. This issue is a little bit less interesting to me than issue number 1, but still really good, and I'll keep reading it. A book that's, in the same vein, I guess. We're moving over to Boom. This is Barbaric. This is issue number 4. Keanu Reeves, Matt Kent. This is a really cool book. It kind of expands more on the final days of... And Maya's back. We kind of go over the final days of our character and their home and the battling that the father has kind of forced upon our main character, BRZRKR here, right? So he's trying to remember he's trying to remember where he came from. He's trying to remember the early days. He's going to therapy in the present day to try to unlock the secrets of how he is the way he is. We learn that his mom and dad, his mother and father, essentially made a pact. Mom went up into the woods and kind of prayed to the gods, and the gods gave her this indestructible, just killing machine baby. This baby grew up, and he's been used as a weapon of war from his father. It's just getting out of hand. We learn about the conflict between the mother and the father as far as, how should their son be handled in the future? Should he be this weapon of war? And so when you're used as a weapon of war, you attract all sorts of people, right? And so they kind of bite off a little bit more than they can chew, and there's massive repercussions from it. One thing we do learn in this book is, essentially, is our character immortal? We've seen him impaled, burned, blown up. He's been engulfed in flames and all sorts of stuff. You know what I mean? I think he's literally like pulled pins on grenades on his own vest and exploded and walked out. And so we learn a little bit more about the limits of his immortality, or of his invulnerability, I should say. And I feel like in the next issue, we're going to learn a little bit more about the ulterior motives of the people that he works for. He's already getting wind of it. He already understands a little bit about how he's being used in a way. And, they're kind of making these false promises to him, but he's getting wise to it. So it's going to be fun to see how he revolts, I guess, against this company, right? Or against this agency or organization that has been recruiting him and working with him this whole time. So BRZRKR 4, there's a lot of interesting story and character development and little twists here and there underneath all the ultra violence and gore. So I really appreciate that, how they're kind of balancing that. So it's been really fun. All right. So we have Robbies Pick of the Week. This is actually Dark Horse Comics. This is Gru meets Tarzan. So we have Sergio Aragonés, and we have Thomas Yeats, and we have Mark Evanier. So this book was really, really fun. I don't know anything about Gru or Tarzan or any of these creative teams. I know they've been around for a long time. I know they've been in with Mad Magazine a lot. There's just so much that these guys have done, and Gru and everything else. So what I really, really appreciated and loved about this book is it's really what, 3 stories combined. It's these creators walking through a con, being mistaken for other creators by the fans around them. It's almost like a Where's Waldo spread right here of the con, where it's just these speech bubbles and just interesting things you can find all over the place. You can spend 10 minutes looking at this page, and you'll find all sorts of interesting stuff. It reminds me of like the Where's Waldo books, or even like a Far Side book, something like that. And so you can look around. There's a Batman guy. The reason I like cosplaying is because it makes me stand out from the crowd. He's wearing a Batman costume and he's surrounded by Batmans, right? Because everybody had the same idea. Or there's Harley Quinns. I've seen at least 30 Harley Quinns at this con, and some of them were even women, So there's lots of guys dressed up, lots of cool stuff happening. So you have basically the creative team for the book attending this con, getting mistaken from other people, joining this panel, constantly being mistaken for other writers and things like that, because nobody reads books that they put out apparently in the last 10 years, 20 years. But then you have this cool other story with Tarzan and Gru. So Tarzan's trying to investigate like this slave ship. They've been kidnapping people from the area, and he's trying to uncover like where they came from, who are they, where they're getting their people from. So he's kind of going from village to village to understand what's going on. At the same time, we have Gru wandering around, who apparently destroys everything wherever he goes. And these different tribes that he visits, they're freaked out. They're like, we got to get him out of here. So their big idea is like, hey, why don't you keep walking? Because way over there's like the most amazing cheese in the world. He's like, oh yeah, great. Let's go over there, right? And so they're all communicating with each other to go, hey, this is how you get rid of Gru. Just tell him there's something really awesome just in the next village over. And then the village at the very end of it will just have to suffer the consequences, but we'll all be safe in the process, right? And so we actually don't get what the title suggests, where Gru meets Tarzan. We don't get that yet, but we get some really, really cool scenes towards the end about they're probably about to meet each other, right? And so they're both heading, I think, in the same direction. So we'll probably get an interaction with them next time. Meanwhile, our creative team, back to them after the panel on the con, they get inspired to kind of write this Tarzan book, and they actually go to like this real janky, real bad zoo, essentially. And yeah, and there's some pretty cool interactions and some funny things that happen there. Really funny book. Really, really funny book. So, yeah, I would recommend that too, especially if you're familiar with the creative team. I wasn't. It was still fun to kind of flip through it and look at all the pages. All right, last book. Not only is it the last book, but it's Colin Bunn. He puts out like 3 books a week. The last book you'll ever read. This is the last book that I read this week. I actually love this book. I think it's my favorite Colin Bunn book, besides Basilisk. I think it's like this book and then Basilisk and then like a giant gap and then Shadow Man and whatever else. And he's got Lucky Devil coming out soon and Parasomnia is somewhere way down there. And how many is that? I think that's like 3, 4, 5, 6 books already in the past, month and a half or 2 months that he's put out. Last book you'll ever read, #1. This one was really, really fun, man. So essentially, there's really not much to spoil in this book, but this character here, she's our main character. She's an author. She writes a book about just the decay of humans and how their basic instincts, their animalistic instincts are getting worse and worse and more prevalent, right? And for some reason, when people read this book, they become ultra violent. They don't like immediately snap or anything like that, but when they're in a situation where there's some kind of confrontation, maybe, they actually just rip each other apart. And so there's some riots, there's some like crazed fans, presumably, but they're actually kind of possessed. They're kind of in this state of like a zombie kind of a state where they just kind of snap. There might be something supernatural. It seems like our main character kind of knows what's going on. There's some kind of demon presence or something like that. Her book is a bestseller. It's all over the place. And people are kind of changing because they're reading it. And we don't quite know why yet. And I have a feeling that she knows why. Maybe she did something. So yeah, it was really interesting. It's ultra gory. It's really, really fun. It's a comic about how something can be placed in the real world that will actually change the way people behave. And they're just going absolutely crazy. So I loved it. I think it was great. So last book you'll ever read was a close contender for book of the week, but I think book of the week was Son of Kal-El, Superman. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you read. I think the top books from the week are Superman, last book you'll ever read. Berserker is really fun. I like Berserker a lot. Vinyl was interesting. Didn't quite do it for me. Skybound's on the down slope a little bit, depending on the side stories, especially. Sweet Paprika, that's a skip for me. Spawn is doing what Spawn does. Department of Truth, I'm glad that particular story is over, but it was interesting. Beta Ray Bill, great conclusion, I thought. Amazing Fantasy was interesting. Daredevil, I'm waiting for it to move forward. I'm tired of the characters being where they've been for the last 4 issues. Infinite Frontier, full of characters that I don't know, doing things for reasons I don't understand. We'll keep reading it. Robin, weakest issue, I think. And I mentioned before, Superman's the pick of the week. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought about these books this week. I know a lot of you got tons and tons of books. Were you able to read them? What were your favorites? What were your favorite, like, top 3? Let me know down below. While you're down there, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and ding, ding, ding that bell notification for future videos, as Big Herm would say. As always, I have links to the Bad Batch down below in the description. Please show them some love. And also, happy birthday, Bueller. Turning 100 years old, man. That's a huge accomplishment. I'm very happy for you. He's got a dream he's working towards where he's going to be completely mobile, selling off tons of stuff. He's going to be touring the country, going to comic book shops, visiting fans, what a dream come true. So show the guy some love. Go back to his channels, watch his videos, tell him happy birthday. The guy's worth it, man. Yeah, it's just awesome. He's doing really good stuff over there. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the comments.